welcome to our MadeFor lunchtime taster session, the key differences between corporate and CX strategy. My name is LaShawn Newell Stevenson, and I'm the admissions manager here at MadeFor, and I will also be your moderator for today. I also have Barbara with me, who will be producing today's session, so you can thank her for the run of show and the visuals. We are also very, very happy to have you here today and share our industry know-how with you. If you are able to turn on your cameras, that would be great, as we would love to see your faces and be able to engage with you as much as possible. And also, please note that we will be recording this session, so you will be able to watch it back and share with fellow CX enthusiasts once we upload it to our YouTube channel and our other social media platforms. Also, there should be a link in the chat box now that will link to the Miro board that we'll be using today. So please click on it so you can join us and participate in today's activities. And we do expect that the session will invoke a lot of thought from you guys, and you guys will be presenting different ideas and come with different issues that you're trying to address here today. So please use the Zoom chat to submit any questions that you may have, and we will answer them at during the Q&A at the end of the session. So if we move on to the objective today, as I said, this session will use the Miro board and Zoom to interact with you today. So, we expect you to enjoy it as much as you can. You can browse the board, see explanations and examples, and interact with the different assignments that we have for you. Also, the key objectives for today will be to explore the differences and similarities in corporate and CX strategies, understand how learning can help you become a customer strategist, and also we'll have the Q&A session at the end, so you can ask any questions that you may have and that you would like for Charissa to address. So now I can move on and introduce you to our guest speaker for today, Charissa Shelton, who is a CX strategy coach. I will now turn this session over to her and give you more insights on today's topic and what she does and how she does it. So welcome, Charissa. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, LaShawn. Hey, everyone. I'm so delighted that you are here. Sorry, that's my bell saying that there's a package at my door, if you can hear it. So yeah, a little bit about me, but while I introduce myself, I actually invite you all to add to the chat. I'd be curious to know what company you're from, or kind of what you're curious about for today's session. So if you want to share that in the Zoom chat, I would be curious to check that out as well. But a bit about me. So I'm from Chicago and in the United States, and I moved to Belfast in the UK just back in September of last year. So I'm actually finishing my MBA after consulting since 2014. So since 2014, I've worked in different consulting capacities. And in the most recent years, I've specialized in customer experience strategy. So I've worked with a variety of companies, as you can see here on the slide. And with each of those companies, the core kind of job to be done from my perspective has been to help them untangle their opportunities, kind of like that thread of yarn, just getting a little bit more clear and making progress to improve their company, whether it's from a customer experience standpoint or other aspects of the company as well. But one of my favorite quotes that I think applies really well to consulting as well as to just life in general is at the top of this slide. And the quote is by Adam Grant, and he's a psychologist, an organization psychologist, who just wrote a book called Think Again. And this quote says, if we can't learn to find occasional glee in discovering we are wrong, it will be awfully hard to get anything right. And I just love that playful spirit of being willing to change our minds, being willing to learn and adapt. And I think that's increasingly important for organizations and increasingly important for leaders because the world is changing rapidly, right? So how can we embrace our learning process and discover we're wrong to make sure we don't get any, so that we don't find ourselves getting anything right at all. So that's enough about me. Let's carry on and think about customer experience more thoroughly. So customer experience is increasingly popular and is increasingly the #1 differentiator for brands. Lots of studies have shown that it's a #1 brand differentiator in recent years. Leaders of different companies across industries have recognized that customer experience design is one of their top strategic priorities. And the reason for that is there's been a lot of research that shows the benefits of customer experience. So there's countless metrics that show higher customer satisfaction rates, higher customer loyalty, reduced churn of customers, so more customer retention, as well as more employee retention and better employee engagement and experience. So there's some parallels there as well, and also increased revenues and increased profits. So there's a lot of benefits to investing in your customer experience. What's interesting though with this is there are discrepancies between the intended experience and the reality. So you can see the third bullet here highlights one particular study that showed that 80% of the firm leaders believed their customer experience was great. But when they interviewed the same customers, only 8% of the customers agreed that the experience was actually great. And I think this is just a really common kind of human thing where these leaders, they think they're doing awesome. They really believe the best in their employees, but it's just inevitable that we get some things wrong. And there's some of these moments that aren't as great as maybe we intend. And so the trick here, the key here is to really think about the whole organization and try to understand the current experience and then redesign the experience to get rid of silos and to get rid of these pain points, and to be really intentional with all of these key moments with customers, whether that's with the layout of a store or whether that's with a customer service phone call or whether that's with the product itself. All of these moments are really important to customers having that positive experience where they create more loyalty, they create more connection, and really nurture that relationship from a company to the customer. So with our bootcamps, we think a lot about customer strategy and customer experience. And customer strategy is really the place to start when you're beginning that journey or just, going the next level up. Like maybe you're already thinking about customer experience, maybe you're already prioritizing that. But strategies and dynamics are always changing. So it's really, really important to be always reevaluating your strategy to make sure that your business is maximum value. So going to the next slide. So when we think about customer strategy, we prioritize this strategy model. And you can see here it's this pyramid where the first and foremost thing is clarifying that vision, really getting clear and aligned with all your stakeholders around what is the impact that you want to have, what's your vision of the kind of organization that you want to be. And the second part of the strategy layer level is clarifying the principles. So these are kind of the guidelines or rules that are they inform your playbook, right? So these are kind of the principles are you kind of declaring this is who we are, this is who we want to be, and it builds off of your vision. It's an expression of your vision, and then that feeds into the roadmap there on the bottom, where then ultimately you need to connect to your actions in your organization, the processes, the systems in your organization to, again, reflect those principles and to achieve that vision. So it's about getting alignment throughout this pyramid and being really thoughtful and being really honest about this customer experience strategy, again, to align your intention with that reality, right? And then here on the right, you can see, of course, there are success metrics and KPIs that need to be considered to manage and incentivize that process as you go. So let's look at each of these three categories in more detail, the vision, principles, and roadmap. So first, I want to think about LinkedIn as an example of vision. So I would be curious to hear from you all what you think LinkedIn's vision would be based on your experience with LinkedIn. You could pop it in the Zoom chat or you could unmute and share your thoughts, but what would be your articulation of what you think LinkedIn's vision is for their customers? There's no right or wrong here.
A quick comment in between. Sometimes there is a bit of noise on the background. So Chris, I'm not sure maybe if it's your hair, but just a quick shout maybe.
Thanks for letting me know. I'm not sure. There's also dogs barking, so it's background noise today.
No worries.
So Carol, allow people to connect with their network. Yeah, it's definitely a core part of their process and core part of what the value that they bring. Yeah. Networking all over the world. Yep. Connecting companies with employees all over the world. Natalie. Yep. Fantastic. Let's reveal what, allowing entities to build their digital brand, lifetime career support. Perfect. Yes. So these pair well, I think, with what they say their actual vision is. So their vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. So it's a little bit more bigger picture. It's even more than networking, right? It's kind of more inspirational and motivational, and it's like empowering people with these opportunities and thinking about the global workforce. So it's a little bit more high level, a little bit more inspirational than just some of the particular things that they do, like networking and connecting and supporting you on your lifetime career. Some of those examples might actually fall more into the category of the principles of how they go about doing that. Or some of them might even be more granular, like the roadmap. So let's take a look at principles a bit further. So when we think about principles, principles are essentially the commitments that people make from their intentions and then the commitments that they're making with their customers. So this is how they live out who they are as a company and their vision. And Facebook is an interesting example of a company where principles can kind of go wrong, right? Some of the recent data controversies with Facebook not always being as transparent about how they're using people's data or who they're selling people's data to can create friction between what they're saying about, hey, approve your privacy, like we take your privacy very seriously, to then in reality, it seems like they don't always respect your privacy or don't always use your data to your best interest, or at least they haven't in the past, right? So some of those recent scandals have created friction between the intention and the reality based on those principles, based on the contracts of the relationship that they've made of who they said they're going to be as an organization compared to the customer experience and that customer contract in that relationship. So this kind of highlights the importance of principles in relation to your customers and how it can go wrong when you don't actually live out those principles authentically in your experience. So the next slide then. So then when we think about actually living out your principles and your experience, you need to think through that roadmap. So this is, again, looking at your vision, looking at your principles, and clarifying some of your key goals and key initiatives that support the vision and support your principles. And it's really mapping out in your organization how you're going to achieve that customer experience strategy. So again, this is fairly straightforward, but you need to go through that vision and principles process to get really clear on what's most important and where do we spend our energy to create that experience that we intend for our customers. Brilliant. All right, so we've talked about strategy. We've unpacked these key layers of the customer experience strategy. But what's the difference between corporate and CX strategy, corporate and customer experience strategy? And this gets confused a lot. And I think the core distinction that I would articulate is a corporate strategy is more of your business strategy, your market strategy of you as a business identity, a corporate identity, how you intend to grow and thrive within the market and differentiate who you are as a company. Whereas your customer experience strategy is really the heart that keeps those corporate strategies in check, right? The customer experience strategy is focused on the relationships with your customers. I would argue your customers are the lifeblood of your organization. They are the heart of your organization. And customer experience strategy is really about connecting to your customers, building that relationship. And so you need to clarify what's the strategy involved in building that relationship. And one of the benefits of this is increasingly organizations, we're basically moving into an era where companies need to be more value-driven, more purpose-driven, more kind of humanized in their dynamics and in their relationships. And so a customer experience strategy kind of keeps the corporate strategy in check, so that the company doesn't just blindly pursue profits for profit's sake, but is actually making sure it stays valuable to the people that they're serving. It stays valuable to their stakeholders. So corporate strategy and CX strategy feed one another, relationship with one another, and customer experience strategy kind of keeps the corporate strategy in check, and in tune with the heart of the organization in that way. So next, we want to spend a little bit of time on an activity actually where we think more about corporate strategy versus customer experience strategy. So if you're in the Miro board, what we would like you to do is to actually find this slide. So I see some of you are in there. So go to the side that says, let's give it a try. Great. Thank you, Barbara. She just brought all of you there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take just 2 or 3 minutes, and we want you to take a Post-it and attempt to articulate the Google's corporate strategy versus customer experience strategy. So it doesn't have to be perfect. There's no right or wrong with this. And it's just kind of your best guess at this. But take a Post-it and try to articulate what would be Google's corporate strategy versus what would be Google's customer experience strategy, that heart part of the strategy. Now, if you want a little bit more support or help, there is an example from Apple in the top right corner. If you want to zoom into that little section, you could see an example of some of the distinctions where Apple's corporate strategy is more focused on a premium product, whereas the customer experience strategy is more focused on how they deliver those experiences to give that premium experience to their customers. So enough of me talking. Go ahead and take a stab at articulating the corporate strategy versus the CX strategy in these 2 charts. And I think we'll just take 2 minutes, and then we're going to debrief a bit together. Beautiful. I love it. Also, thank you for the music, Barbara. That was such delightful music. So I would love to hear from just like 1 or 2 of you, if you want to share, what was it like to try to articulate the distinction between the corporate and the customer experience strategy? Feel free to just unmute and share your thoughts. We'd love to get some gut reactions to that.
Hi, this is Natalie. So I think that there are always some differences between the corporate and the CX strategy, and I think that's always something, especially in bigger companies. One is much more inward focused, commercially focused, and the CX strategy is about what does the customer really want to achieve, the goal. So at least when I put some notes down and also a measurement, that's kind of how I try to approach it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Thank you, Natalie, for sharing. Anyone else care to share? I was trying to remember who. I saw several of you writing, but now I forget whose all post-its were whose. Priyanka, I think I remember seeing you writing. Do you want to share? If you're willing, it's okay if not. Or Connor.
Hey, so I was actually putting a post-it first in corporate strategy to offer best product services to wide range of audiences for free. But then I realized this is something that sort of also drives CX strategy, and the corporate strategy would be to increase the market share. But I'm not sure if my assumption is correct.
Yeah, so I see the increase the market share. And which post-it was the other one? The offer best products and services? Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one way you could draw that distinction there. I think your evolution of that thought process was helpful. I know one I think I saw was, being the #1 search engine in the world versus, I lost track of the other one.
Yeah, that was mine, and that was
Yes. Okay, perfect. Well, great. So yeah, I know this is a super quick activity. I'm realizing the time, so I want to have time for some questions. But so when you think about the corporate strategy versus the customer experience strategy, we could also then start to think through how you would measure that, right? So if a corporate goal is to be the #1 search engine in the world, there could maybe be some straightforward metrics for how you would track that in the ranking of the search engine use, right? But then if you start to think about, okay, how do we define best products and services? Or how do we think about like maximum enjoyment? And so what are some of those key metrics that you could start to think through to track that intended experience and reflect that in the organization? So just to wrap it all together, going to the next slide then. So I think the bottom line in all of this is that all companies have a customer experience. It's just that some people leave it a bit more to chance, and some are more intentional to design a more thoughtful, more intentional, and more aligned customer experience. So we don't want to leave our customer experience to chance. We want to clarify that strategy. And then we want to clearly design journeys and ecosystems of the process and the employee key moments, things like that, that reflect the customer experience strategy that you intend. So I hope this was a helpful kind of just high level run through of some key principles around customer experience strategy. With the last few minutes, I would love to hear a couple questions that any of you might have. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Charissa. It's great to see the difference in the two types of strategies. As you said, we would like to start the Q&A. I see that there hasn't been many submitted to the chat. So does anybody want to raise their hand and submit your question directly to Charissa at this point?
Yeah, I have a question. Should metrics for CX strategy and corporate strategy always be different, or should both of them sort of interlink with each other?
Great question. Yeah, I would say they're definitely interlinked. One great example, I'm blanking on the name of the company, but there was a company in the Netherlands who created a new department basically where they had the employee experience research and like more HR people and product and innovation, customer experience, all in kind of the same department. And they had these listening labs where they would do their research and they would connect with their employees and their customers. And then with that, they had metrics that everyone was tracking. thinking of sort of a more holistic scorecard of sorts for the organization, because they are interlinked. Yeah. Other questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, Bianca. Yeah.
Any more questions, guys? We have Charissa here for a limited time only.
Get it now. Yeah.
Okay, then. Well, we have come to, I guess, the end of the session anyway, and I'm grateful that we were able to go through it in such detail. So I want to thank you guys all for attending and participating in the activities today, and send a big thank you to Charissa for hosting today and sharing her insights. And Charissa, we've thoroughly enjoyed the content. I think we're just going to launch a quick poll before you guys go, just to see how we can improve our sessions and how you guys enjoyed today's content. And I'd also like to remind you guys that you guys can follow us on social media at MadeFor CX on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and check out our website at madeforcx.com. You can use our contact page to reach out to anyone in the MadeFor team, and we can get back to you about any questions you may have. Thank you.